What's up, YouTube? I am up late doing a video. Um, I know y'all gonna probably want me to speak louder, but um, it's late and everybody in the house is sleeping, so I'm not going to be too loud with my conversation. Um, but we had a live yesterday that was um, a really good live. I got a chance to kind of connect with some of my followers or whatnot, um, and I wanted to come back and touch on nonverbal communication. You have to excuse me, it's late. I just got out of the shower, um, but one of the things that came up was um, nonverbal communication, and I thought it was a very interesting topic because a lot of people feel as if um, you need to be loud or aggressive to get your point across about some things. And in my opinion, you really don't, because even though we are human and the the way that most of us communicate is through verbal language. It doesn't matter the language or whatever. Verbal is verbal, whether it's Chinese, American, Creole, um, Arabic, all walks of verbal communication. Um, and I am listening to, if you want to know, a spiritual chakra cleanse, just to kind of listen to something while we are having a conversation on nonverbal communication. I thought it would be interesting. And if you want to know the YouTuber that I'm listening to right now, his name is Healing Chakra Vibrations. So I'm going to give him a shout out because he's doing singing bowls at the moment, and I thought it would be appropriate for the video itself. And the touchy subject on nonverbal communication. Um, and I'm going to give him a like on that. I'm never a hater. When I come in and I'm watching somebody, I always either say something. Hi, how are you, Moonwalker? Nice to see you, Moonwalker Crystal. So we were talking about nonverbal communication, and most people feel like it's only one way to communicate, which is verbal, loud, aggressive, in some type of way to get your point across. But I beg to differ. Um, there are other ways to communicate besides verbal, there's also body language, sensory, touch is a little bit beyond, okay? But I believe in there's other ways that you can communicate with a person besides just talking. I don't know if it's just me, but you know, and I've studied this myself because I found it interesting. Me myself being um, very tuned into energies and how people can feel your vibrations when you talk to them without speaking. Body language is a really key factor to nonverbal communication. Um, Even if you're in a business atmosphere and you're a boss, or you're dealing with your boss, or someone who is evaluating you as a person, even if you have an interview or whatnot, a lot of times many people will evaluate your body language. Um, you could be saying something out of your mouth, but your body language could be giving off something completely different. Um, and I've always said, I don't know, I don't care what someone says to you, but I always pay attention to the feet. Okay, if I want to know how a person really is in the mindset, what type of person they are, I always tend to notice that people who stomp a lot um, are aggressive with their feet, how they walk around you or whatever. They're saying something to you. Um, Most of the time it's in an aggressive manner. Hi, how are you? Um, Miss Parker on the graveyard shift. How are you, love? But like I was saying, I always pay attention to a person's feet, okay? Because I don't care what you say or what they say to you. They may seem to not be aggressive towards you, but how they walk around you is a big key factor on how they actually feel about you. I've learned this on my own personal spiritual journey, but that's another thing, because I am somewhat of an introvert. I can't say somewhat. I'm a big introvert. A lot of times people can miscalculate me because I'm quiet in real life. I sit back and I pay attention to things because my voice seems to carry a lot. Um, and a lot of times I don't like to come off in a negative manner. So most of the time I will sit back and I'll be quiet, okay? Because you can say something to some people, and even if they are extra sensitive, extra empathic, they could take it wrong, So me, myself, I would prefer to just sit back, be quiet, and nonverbal communicate to whatever person that I'm speaking to and make it clearer to them how I personally feel about them, okay? And that works in a positive way, and it also works in a negative way, and I recently came up with that because I've been a traveler and I meet a lot of people, and I also work in the business area, many business area, done management and everything. And a lot of times you will have to evaluate people that you're around, um, just to kind of see what type of person they are. Because a lot of people, they do the crocodile tears. They'll tell you, oh, I didn't mean it like that, or um, I didn't say anything to offend you, or what have you. Yeah, Miss Parker says, I'm kind of the same way. Silence is the high road, almost. Yeah, you know, um, and since I'm a highly sensitive person, um, I take from my own experiences that some people can say things to me the wrong way, and I'm a Cancer, so I can be highly sensitive, but me being mature enough to learn to just sit back and say, you know what, I'm gonna just be quiet. I want them to understand my energy, to know that I'm not here to harm them in any type of manner. And I also want to sit back and pay attention to them and see what type of person they are, you know, because you could say, oh, JaNey, I never meant it like that. And um, I just want you to understand, or what have you. And your body language could be giving me a completely different vibration than what your language, what you are saying to me is coming off. Um, yes. Um, and I want to take my time when I say this, because a lot of times on your first mind, when you evaluate a person's body language and how they come off to you, most of the time your intuition is right. Okay. Because some people are really good at putting on a mask. I'm not good at putting on a mask. Sometimes I get irritated easily. And it's only because I can notice a different type of energy from a person who is trying to put up a mask and tell me that things are not what they seem to be. But in reality, like everybody says, energy never lies. And a lot of people are really not up on nonverbal communication. And in my opinion, an intelligent person knows that there is such a thing as nonverbal communication. And no matter what you're telling me, if you're stomping around, you're making loud noises, you're slamming things, and you're aggressively putting things down, you know, it could be showing some type of frustration. I'm not saying that, it could be anger, but there's some type of frustration there with me as a person, or you're frustrated with the situation in general. Then it says, Miss Parker on the graveyard shift, she said, laugh all out, I've known one other Cancer woman. My dad is Cancer. Okay. I have a lot of Cancers in my family. My sister, my brother, my first cousin. It's a lot of us. So as Cancers, we seem to be a little more temperamental, and we're not really going to get into like the zodiac sign like that, because that's just a map of a person. You could still be a Cancer and be a complete mess, but because of the fact that they label us as emotional, a lot of us are a little temperamental at that because the first thing you want to say is that we're crybabies. No, um, we're sensitive to energy. Um, we understand when someone is cloaking something, and sometimes that make us easy at cloaking because we notice when someone's cloaking. And I'm trying not to be too loud because everybody is in the house asleep once again. But um, that's just like when you have to show someone affection, like you have a significant other or something like that, and you want to show someone affection, and the touch is soft. You know what I'm saying? It's not aggressive in any type of manner, but that's the type of energy that you would give off to someone um, in a caring way, okay? Um, and that's the same in general in life for me. That's how I take it, you know. An aggressive mannerism is when something is always loud, it's kind of rough, you know. And I understand that some of us, you may learn how to handle things um, the mean way, or you've learned from the mean girls. I'm sorry, excuse me. But if you're a sensitive person to energy, you kind of like, you say to yourself, like, wait a minute, I need to step back and ease off of that a little bit. Um, then she says, do you study nonverbal, or is just your personal education and beliefs just curious? Well, I don't study nonverbal, but it's a personal belief through experience. Um, for me being introverted, a lot of times I'll go quiet if I've been upset. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't like when you go quiet about situations and they can't handle the quiet before the storm. And then they want to get loud. They have to break the silence because it's almost like they're not able to control their own energy, and they're afraid that you would figure them out. And no matter what they say out their mouth, once again, energy kind of never lies. If you do not like me, you're going to move aggressively. It's going to be a little bit more of a fast pace, and that's going to be a clear understanding to you of how I feel about you as a person, okay? It won't take it, I won't take it too far to say that it will be anger, but it's enough clarification to say, I don't like the way this person is moving. And then every time I ask this person, are you sure you don't have an issue with me? And once again, some people are not even aware of their own energy, and they're not aware that they can tell on themselves simply by the way they move. You ever heard somebody say, I don't like the way they move. I just do not like the way they move. I know they say that they're okay. I know that they say that you're your friend, but it's just something about the way they move that is disturbing to me. And if they're not aware to energy, and they don't take the time and sit in the quiet, they don't notice what they're putting off to you, because they're so used to talking, to communicate with you. That's, it's conversation is so shallow a lot of times, because most people are just not aware. And I just think that it's kind of human nature, but still kind of barbaric a little bit, to where you feel like, speaking to someone in any type of manner would be your only amount of communication. People have done studies on it. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? That people have done studies with it. That's just like your mom or your auntie, and you're going somewhere and you keep having all these issues, and you're young, you're at a young age, you're like 20 something, okay? And you keep wondering, or even you're in your teens, you're in high school, and you keep wondering, like, why do I keep having these issues with everybody? But you're young, you're not aware of verbal communication. You may be saying, oh, I don't have a problem with you, but your body language is giving off something completely different. And sometimes, especially in certain places, it can be disrespectful. That's when they also tell you that it's a time and it's a place for everything. You know what I'm saying? You go certain places, and all that hip action, popping the tongue, and snapping a finger, that can be a bit of an attitude. And like I said, not just as in the spiritual aspect, but in the business atmosphere. Okay? You're dealing with a manager or management or a boss in some type of way, a director of a business. And you're having a conversation with your boss. And they're having a conversation with you on your work ethic, your mannerisms with the customers. And you may have had an issue with one of the customers, and let's say one of the customers say, I just feel like, your employee was disrespectful. Let's say you had an attitude that day. You weren't feeling good. You got into an argument earlier before you got to work. You know what I'm saying? And you go into work and you're thinking that that same energy before you got to work didn't come with you. But fact of the matter, it did. But you're not aware of it because you're not aware of nonverbal communication. And then she says, I'm 40 now. I often wonder if other people let themselves feel the quiet in their mind, and wonder if I'm slow or just at peace. Laugh out loud. Yeah, I'm 43, and as I look back on my experiences, you know, me being a young whippersnapper, okay, and the way I used to carry myself, I can look now and look back on myself and say, oh wow, I can see what an older woman was telling me about how I could have been disrespectful. I didn't notice myself being disrespectful, but I was having a bad day. I got into an argument with my mom, my cousin, my brother, whoever I argue with. Let's say you have an argument or an aggressive behavior with your significant other. You take that mess into work, and your energy is going to be off for the rest of the day if you don't stop and check yourself and say, you know what? I need to just pay attention to my energy, because whatever I had transpired with before I got here to this place today is starting to disrupt what I have going on right now. And that is your nonverbal communication. That is your energy. And like I said, it's not, I haven't studied, you know, book-wise about, you know, nonverbal communication, but I can say in the past, I found it intriguing because I kind of thought that there was such a thing as nonverbal communication. Yeah, I mean, it's just a wild guess on my part. I could be wrong because I'm not reading from a book or anything like that. But as you get to a mature age, you understand that the nonverbal communication is energy in itself. That is the energy. And when you get good at controlling your own energy, because it's yours, you do have to control that. You understand that, oh, wait a minute. So I can honestly communicate with a person non-verbally. That's just like someone who is deaf in one ear or both ears. They might be reading your lips. That's also energy almost, because the way your lips move, they're studying your body language, all that as a whole, to understand what you're saying without hearing you, because they can't hear you, but they're studying your body as a whole in order to communicate with you. And that's how they see what type of person you are. You see what I'm saying? And it took me a while, you know, to get that, as a person, that wow, I can really talk to someone without talking to them, if that makes any sense. Like, I can hold a complete conversation with them. And I can even say that it might just go as far as maybe telepathy. But I don't know much on that. But I think telepathy telepathy could be a part of nonverbal communication, because you're still not talking to a person, but you're learning how to control the quiet. Um, and most people don't like the quiet. They don't like things to be quiet. But if you think about it, when it's quiet, you get to sit with your own thoughts. You don't, you're not entertaining someone else's suggestions or someone else's ideas. You know how somebody can put off your thoughts because they keep trying to suggestively put their mind into your mind and make you think like them. It's a projection. I think that's what you would call a projection, because instead of you allowing me to think for myself, you want to project your thoughts onto me and disrupt my mind. But you can also project your thoughts onto me verbally. But there's a way that you can project onto me non-verbally too. Or, you know how you could talk to a person and it be, how do you say that there's a, you could be saying one thing, but it's like you almost are saying two things. It's like a double, somebody help me out on that. It's a double communication, you know, and I think that's a part of telepathy. Maybe I'm wrong, but a double narrative. You know how somebody could be saying one thing, but they're also saying another at the same time, and you catch on to it, and you're like, wait a minute. You're not just saying one thing to me, you're saying two at one time. And that's a part of nonverbal communication, because you could be telling me something but casting another thought. And if you're smart enough, you'll catch on to it and you'll be like, wait a minute. There's a hidden message here. I know what it is, but if I'm not quick enough, I won't catch on to it. I'm trying to slow down because this is my first time talking about nonverbal communication. But we were talking about that earlier today, and I said, you know what, this would be a very good conversation. True, I think the power of our words, I think that's the power of our words. That's why I hate arguments. I don't like to argue. It bothers me because I have to clear that energy later. I don't like to have to apologize for something, because if you said it, you meant it. That's most of the times, if you said it, you meant it. That was something that you wanted to say. And a lot of times we just have to be careful in order not to have to apologize about something we meant to say. Sometimes we really even have to be careful with our thoughts. People who have a certain mental power with their quiet mind, we have to be careful of what we're thinking. Okay? And if you know, you know. Like, you really have to be careful what you think about people too, especially someone who has that type of mindset and that can really pick up on your energy without you saying anything. Some people can honestly read your thoughts through your body language, and they say no one can read your thoughts, but they can read your body language. So you have to be careful sometimes, even with your thinking in a negative manner, because they can feel your energy. I know they want to say that no one can hear your thoughts. No, they can't. But they can read your body language. And then what else you say? People be doing word spells without opening their mouth. They do. It's their mind. It's like you didn't say it, but I know you have a negative thought process about me, especially if at a mature age and you have learned how to read a person's facial expressions. It's like I can look at your face and tell what is on your mind. Okay? Um, Sometimes we may be wrong and we have to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. You old school. You heard about that. You know what I'm saying? I'm from the old school. I'm an 80s baby. You 40, I'm 43. Sometimes you have to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because some of these older people, they understand something that you're not equipped to yet because you don't have the experience to know what you're talking about yet. And a lot of people, they get to moving, they get to talking, but they don't know what they're talking about. And, that's why a lot of times I have to take a break from my YouTube channel because I'm learning how to present myself in a manner where people understand and I'm not offending people, And I know they say you have to keep posting and whatnot, but you don't want to offend everyone. That's not what you want to do. You want to be assertive. You want to get your point across. But at the same time, you don't want to offend everybody, especially somebody that's in your corner. Because if I'm in your corner and you say something to offend me, I'm not with you no more. That's just simple fact, And nonverbal communication, let's just say you're with your significant other, your spouse, your husband, and y'all have been around each other for so long that your husband or your wife can say, you know what? I felt that. I know exactly what you're thinking. Okay? And it's like, you're like, wow, I've been around this fool for so long that you know my thoughts. And that's a part of nonverbal communication. Even your spouse, someone that you're around 24/7, someone that you're married to, and you get to understand each other so well that he doesn't even have to say anything to you. You're like, you know what? I know what you're thinking. I'm going to go wash the dishes, or I'm going to take care of that. Oh, you know what? I got you today, but you got to have my back on the next thing. But that's a part of nonverbal communication. You see what I'm saying? You've been around each other for so long, or a best friend. Let's say you're single. Let's say your best friend, you've been knowing your best friend for so many years. They know you like the back of their hand. And it's like, you're my best friend. I know something's wrong. I know you're going through something. You may not tell me, but your body language is telling me that you're spiritually in turmoil. You're going through something. And I know you enough to say, hey, are you sure you don't want to talk about it? So whenever you're ready to talk about this, let me know. I'm here. You know, that's why I say you just have to be careful what you're thinking. Because even your significant other, you could be thinking the wrong thing and they could get offended. You see what I'm saying? Nonverbal communication, I feel like a lot of people need to be up on nonverbal communication because it is 2026. We have AI, we have machines taking our jobs. Um, we have a lot of different technology. We have cars that are driving themselves. And people themselves are evolving through a mental state of communication. That's how you know your awareness, whether you're in danger or not. You see what I'm saying? And that me, myself, at a mature age, I don't even drink anymore because it was messing up my decision making. You know, it was messing with my intuition as a person. Like, you know, for me to be drunk all the time and I can't make a clear decision on someone's mindset about me, my awareness was offset because I wasn't able to pick up on someone's nonverbal communication to me. Um, but yeah, I thought it was an interesting topic. I think I'm beating a dead horse at this moment. But nonverbal communication, especially for my introverts, I think that it would have been interesting for some people that don't like to do too much talking, that prefer to just be quiet and just pay attention to people sometimes. Don't ever let nobody tell you, don't ever go quiet on me. That's a red flag for me. If you tell me not to go quiet on you, that's a red flag. You can't handle my mindset. You want to control me. You want to have me consistently talking so you can catch me slipping and use something against me that I said. We are not in court, but anything that I say, you can hold against me. You can. So sometimes it's good to be quiet and just pay attention. And pay attention to people, the way people move, their body language. Pay attention to the feet. They can say they don't have a problem with you, but in spiritual form, you could literally be spiritually trying to step on my toes. But I'm not aware of spiritual or nonverbal communication, so I don't catch on to it. Okay? But I think, hi, how are you, Brani, the Congolese? Nice to meet you. And then Miss Parker says, I thought me and my person took 5 years to really understand the communication between us. I don't think we truly understand how culturally we might be different, but learning how to love people without control, because you can't control everything. Sometimes you literally have to let things go. Let's say, you know, you got a little bird outside your window. It's going ham. You can't control him or her. It's a bird. What you gonna do? Throw something? You can't do that. Like, you cannot control something that is outside of you. You can sit back and you can let it be. I can't control that. That's not a part of me. Then it says, I agree. Yes, you know, you can't control everything. Sometimes you just gotta let it go. And that's just a part of maturity. I can't control that. But it's weird, it's difficult, but the same. I don't know how to explain. Yeah, you know, it's a difficult conversation because a lot of people don't even believe in nonverbal communication. The quiet scares them. They get nervous when everything get quiet. It's too quiet. It's boring. Like, I appreciate sitting back and listening to the leaves rustle sometimes. I may be weird, but out of all the crazy music nowadays, you know, um, and I love some of the new rappers sometimes, but it's not my speed. You know, I'm not entertained by the music, so I can sit back and I can listen to the wind rustle sometimes, and I could be at peace. Girl, you are gorgeous. Thank you, Broom, from the Congolese. But y'all, I'm gonna have to go. I probably woke up somebody in the house. When everybody here asleep. I said I was gonna be quiet, and I'm not. So somebody woke up. I'm gonna start another live tomorrow. I'll see y'all later. Okay, bye.